favorite show. That producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the cow killer, Casey McCollister, and comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Just how we drew it up. Just how we drew it up this weekend for a Cincinnati sports talk show. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, and we have a lot to get to and talk about, because there was as much as we've joked and laughed and made fun of the idea that there's not a lot of sports that have gone on certain days of the week in which we've done this show. Today is not one of them.
No.
I don't know if your headlines, Elliot, as I welcome you into the show here, I don't know if your headlines is like 6 pages long. But if you just turned the television on and you went to a random channel, there was probably a sporting event on it this weekend.
Yeah, I'd say so. It was a very good weekend for sports. I think if you had to rank the Kentucky Derby weekend, it's probably a top five weekend in sports, I'd bet. Top 6, based on the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Derby, MLB, pretty much every other sport.
MLS.
Well,
That's right.
MLS, they played. They were there. They showed up. Everybody who watched that game, congratulations, you watched a good one, and I'm sure we'll get into it. But I think the story of the weekend was the Brady roast, and we'll get into that later in the show. But that was absolutely phenomenal. Whoever's idea that was, shout out to Tom Brady for agreeing to it. That was the best thing I've ever seen, roast-wise.
Yeah, it seemed like there was no kind of level of expectation that you can't say or do something. Like there was certainly what felt like some jokes that maybe crossed the line, but that is ultimately what humor for the most part is. It's to try to make fun of cultural references and things of that nature. And hey, Tom Brady, you can tell that, and I'm sure we'll get into this later on in the show, but you can tell Tom Brady had some jokes that were clearly just he was reading from a teleprompter.
Yeah,
but he did a good job delivering some of them. I give Tom some credit.
Well, I mean,
they were all reading from the teleprompter.
Well, I know, but I'm saying it was the delivery.
Jokes.
It was the delivery. It was like, hey, maybe you could have practiced on this one a little bit longer, Tom.
Well, like all those guys that aren't comedians, their jokes are written for them. Like Bill isn't sitting in a room and writing them things down. Tom isn't sitting in a room and saying this. I want to say this. I want to say this. The writers are writing those jokes. They're just delivering them for him. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I was more or less. And listen, it was. I had seen most of the clips. I can't say that I watched the show, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Casey, did you have a good weekend, buddy?
I did. I had a good weekend. Did a photo shoot with my family on.
Nice.
Yeah,
Aww.
and then.
Is that the mustache? You have that mustache in all those photos?
I do. I do. That's right. And then on Sunday, I was a photographer again. I did photo shoots for 11, 12-year-old girls soccer. So I took all the pictures for the girls, my wife's soccer team, and got some sun. That doesn't really look like it because I had a lot of
with the
sunscreen,
mustache. You did all that with the mustache?
That's right.
You look like you're ready to put out a fire at any notice.
That's right. I am. I'm going to try to. I'm going to do my best. I know Reds Nation is a full-on inferno, but
That it is.
Yeah.
I was
Pretty
there.
good segue right there, by the way.
That was a great segue. I was there for 2 games this weekend, maybe the 2 worst games I've ever seen. I think I'd rather have a 15-0 loss or 15-2 loss than what I watched this weekend. Just close games, could have won, and then just nobody shows up. But you know who did show up?
Who?
Bubba Thompson. And I'll tell you what, every time you see him once every 3.5 weeks and he comes in to run a base, he got from first to third on Saturday. I thought that was special. I thought that was really, really special stuff from Bubba Thompson. What serious franchise has a player taking up a roster spot that comes in once every 3 weeks to pinch run? What a special moment for him, and what a special moment for us as fans to get to behold this beauty that is baseball. But I guess we'll start there. So the Orioles finish off the sweep of the Reds. They won 11-1 yesterday. 11-1. Nick Lodolo, he went 5 innings. He struck out 6. He gave up 4 earned runs. It wasn't good from Nick Lodolo, but to be fair to him, why would he pitch well if nobody's going to help him? And that's how it was the entire weekend, the Reds did not score a single run off of a starting pitcher from Baltimore. Not one. They scored 2 runs all series. All series. The Reds will be back Tuesday against the Diamondbacks. They are 2-8 in their last 10. What a time to be alive. Around the league, the Phillies. They have won 5 in a row after beating the Giants 5-4 yesterday. Bryce Harper hit his 7th home run of the season. The Dodgers, they finished off a sweep of the Braves. They won 5-1 yesterday. Shohei Ohtani was 2 for 4 with 2 home runs.
Kind of good at baseball.
Very good at baseball. Very good at baseball. Very bad at sports gambling. Diamondbacks, they beat the Padres 11-4. The A's, they did lose the series 12-3. They lose the game yesterday 12-3 against the Marlins. They did win the series. Another series victory for the Oakland Athletics. They dropped 20 runs. 20 runs on Saturday. The Reds have scored 16 runs in their last 7 games. Isn't that special?
The Sacramento A's, two games out of first.
2 games out of first place. I hope they win it. I've never cheered for a team harder to win anything.
2 games out of first.
2 games out of first. The Cubs, they win their series over the Brewers after a 5-0 win yesterday. Shout out, Reed. Anything to say?
They're pretty good. You guys, you laughed last week when I told you that the Cubs starting rotation's pretty good. They continue to shove.
Yeah, good for them. Good for them. The other team from Chicago also won. Boy, we asked last week, can the Cardinals really be this bad? They sure look like it. They lose the series to the White Sox this weekend. They win 5-1 yesterday. Rangers, they win 3-2 over the Royals. The Twins, 12-game winning streak. The longest winning streak in a long time in Minnesota. It ends yesterday after a 9-2 loss to the Red Sox. The Mariners beat the Astros 5-4. The Astros continue to be one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball.
Well, quickly, shout out to the city of Minnesota. They saw a 12-game win streak. That'll be the greatest memory for Minnesota sports fans. They could win 16 Super Bowls, but 12 wins in a row always tops that.
Wow. There it is. There it is. The Pirates, they beat the Rockies 5-3 in a series that meant nothing. The NL Central standings, taking a quick look. The Brewers and the Cubs, they're in first place. The Reds are in third. Pirates fourth. The Cardinals coming up the rear in fifth. The Reds are now 2 games under 500. And obviously it's the first time they've been under 500 all year. NBA, the Cavaliers, they came back to win Game 7 against the Magic yesterday, 106-94. Donovan Mitchell scored 39 points, adding 9 boards and 5 assists. Paolo Banchero added 38 for the Magic in the losing effort there. Pacers and Knicks, they square off in Game 1 tonight. The Timberwolves and the Nuggets square off in Game 2. And NHL news, our Dallas Stars, they win the series.
That was great.
4-3. They win the series 4-3 after a 2-1 victory over the Golden Knights. 2-1. What was your favorite moment of that series?
When they won Game 7. I watched all of Game 7, and Casey, as an Avalanche fan, you are so screwed, buddy. You are so screwed,
You're cooked.
buddy. Oh, my goodness.
Avalanche own you guys. They own you. They own the regular season winning record, 3-1 against you guys. And on top of that, we have some, MVP caliber players. Do you guys have any MVP?
Yeah, please.
Actually,
Let's stop there. Name 3.
Well, Nathan McKinnon is really good.
That's 1.
Casey,
There it is.
Casey,
There it is. I knew it was going to happen.
You said the Avalanche own the Stars.
They do.
That sounds like slavery. You're in favor of slavery? Is that what we're getting to today?
No, you can't contain a natural disaster. You can't humanize an avalanche, Reed. That's God's work.
Well,
that's God's work. God is going to come down on the stars.
We're going to dehumanize them this week.
Radio folks are going to love that bit.
Yeah.
We go on here. Rangers, they lead the series 1-0 over the Hurricanes after a 4-3 victory. MLS news. Casey, this is your time to shine, baby. FCC scored a goal, I believe, in the first, 15 seconds?
That's right.
30 seconds. They won 1-0 over the Orlando whatevers. They won 1-0. The score was maintained through the rest of the 89 minutes in extra time, whatever else magical time they have. This is, I guess, the goal.
Yeah, this is the goal that broke the team record. I thought it was really cool. Really cool to see.
Yeah. Fantastic on the radio for those that want to know.
Yeah,
we got balls getting kicked around. They finally are pushing up. And who's this guy, Casey?
That's Lucho Acosta.
Oh, look at Acosta,
Boom.
man.
Ooh, that was naughty. That was naughty.
So, how long until Acosta gets pulled from somebody else? I don't mean to be that guy, but I'm genuinely asking, how long until Acosta is too good for this league?
I mean, he probably is too good for this league, but he signed a major deal with FC.
Wow, so we're holding some guys around. We're keeping them around.
Yeah, he's been around for a while. I mean, he's been here for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It's pretty good.
4 years, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's special. Craig put it in the chat, 89 minutes and 45 seconds of scoreless soccer. Just what the doctor ordered if you paid $100 to get into that game. Casey, what was your favorite moment of that game?
What I just showed.
Just that goal?
That goal. Other than that, it was actually pretty sloppy.
Can we talk about the player that got just absolutely decked in the face by a professional boxer?
I'm glad that. By the way, for those that didn't see the story, clearly there's an FC Cincinnati player that had a broken jaw, and they said it happened during a non-team activity.
A kerfluffle.
I like
PR
folks are just the best, aren't they? They're able to find ways that they can word things and make it sound like it's inconspicuous. He got in a bar fight and he matched up against a guy that was 12-2 with 10 career knockouts.
18-3 with 12 career knockouts or something like that.
Bad guy to run into. Don't you think you should at least get some intel on whoever you got some beef with in the bar before you start to yap your jaws?
Listen, I never claim that Bupenza is the most mature guy out of the group of players. I mean, it was pretty tough news coming out for that to have had that happen to him. To be honest with you, I don't know if it's going to make a whole big difference in the what's going on with FC. They're already struggling on offense. Losing Bupenza isn't really going to change that a whole lot, in my opinion. You lose some depth there, but not the end of the world.
Not the end of the world.
Everett brings up a really good question. He asks, what's worse, 89 minutes of scoreless soccer or the 6 hours of coverage before the Kentucky Derby?
Listen, the Kentucky Derby, it's the pageantry, really, what it does it for me. When everybody wears those stupid hats and they come in there dressed to the nines and they're literally there to watch 2 minutes. Now, I granted they do watch obviously the
races all day.
The races all day. I get that. But saying that, it is a little bit silly. It is a little bit silly.
How many people go there? In fact, which one do you think is a more well-informed crowd? The Kentucky Derby crowd about horse racing, or us in this office about MLS?
Does anyone know anything about horse racing? No. Like, does anyone I swear to God, people that watch it all the time, they have horses. I'm sure they can tell you a lot, but at the end of the day, it's not really an exact science.
I think that there is some exact science to a jockey and how they position, and there's some actual real sport to it. I just think that we're so naive to that we don't know.
When Bob Baffert pumps his horse full of steroids, that's a science. That's a scientific thing. But speaking of the Kentucky Derby, almost a three-way tie. It was similar to that of the Cars movie where Chick and Lightning McQueen and whoever the other guy was when they tied at the finish line. It was that close. But Mystic Dan, 20-1, he takes home the prize. Did anybody bet on Mystic Dan?
No.
I did. What a victory for me that was. I will say this, at Great American Ballpark, they delayed that game again on Saturday for no rain. They were watering the field during a rain delay. They were getting the field nice and wet during the rain delay. I thought they would have showed it on the big board. They did not. That was a real shame. But I wish I could have seen it. I did. I missed the greatest 2 minutes in sporting. That's unfortunate, but I did get the horse.
Did you have a win play show? What was the bet?
Just win. My uncle Frank, he texted me. He said, "Hey, bet this horse." I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna bet it." And by God, it won. By God, it won. The best 2 minutes in sports that I missed. But what a special weekend it was. What a special weekend.
Yeah, because I think that wasn't even the best finish of the weekend. The best finish of the weekend was the NASCAR race.
No, I didn't watch that.
Well, I mean, if you didn't watch it, it doesn't matter if you watched it. Did you at least? Are you suggesting to me that you're a big sports guy and you didn't even see the end of the NASCAR race? If you didn't get a chance to see it, I apologize again, as always, to the folks on the radio. You're not able to see the finish, but here it is on the screen for the YouTube folks. Larson and Buchner, is that how you say his last name?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Ooh.
On this show, it's definitely good. Mouse Cop's probably very proud of us right now. But Larson just etches him out. And there was this argument online about who actually won. And it turns out there was some folks that were screenshotting the actual finish line on the track, saying that it was wiggly. And it was a little it definitely wasn't perfectly straight. Turns out NASCAR has already thought of that.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. And they have a laser that's the actual finish line. So the actual line on the racetrack's not the official line. Turns out, it's just a laser that they can go back and watch in a photo finish, as they say.
How about that?
So shout out to Larson. 0.001 seconds.
Good for him.
Good for him. All right, when we come back, we will talk more sports over the weekend and probably at some point get into the Cincinnati Reds. That and more on 1410 Wing AM. All right, welcome back into Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Some programming notes this week. We are you have obviously the Red Legs because the Reds are on the radio on 1410 Wing AM.
That's right.
That's one. That's
You
one
want to do the
piece.
jingle?
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
The Reds are on the radio.
That sounded way more
I
melancholy
actually
than
think
the
that's
actual
not
thing.
that.
Like, it's exciting.
The Reds are on the radio.
Too nasally. One more.
The Reds are on the radio.
That's better. I think they should change it to that actually.
Do you like that?
All three.
That last
struck
one
out
was
like
that
Will
last.
Benson.
Yeah. Well, that would be par for the course for the Red Legs right now. So, anyways, back to programming notes. Later this week, we will on Off the Bench. We will not be having a show on the radio because we are going to Clovernut Country Club. They're going to let us into a country club. I think, for all intents and purposes, some of us around here, and I'm not saying that I'm picking names out of a hat or anything like that, but my guess is that some of us are probably going to have to go to Goodwill, TJ Maxx, no free ads, and probably get a collared shirt, maybe.
Good news is I have a collared shirt. That's the good news.
I wasn't talking about you.
Okay.
You thought I was.
I think you were, though. That's good. Yeah, I come into Hamilton, Ohio. I drive under the bridge. I see a guy laying in the middle of the road. I had to swerve around him this morning, but God forbid I don't wear a collared shirt to work. So what day is that? Friday? That's the day we're not having the show, or
Friday we will have Friday we'll actually have the show. Thursday we will not have a show.
Thursday would not have the show for those planning ahead. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Good.
Those are those that are really, really tight to their schedules.
Very
Very tight to their schedules.
Yes.
Speaking of schedules, any other headlines that we have missed that we need to get to?
No, that was it. That was the headlines of the weekend.
And you know what's crazy is you did not even get a chance to see. So my favorite part on Sunday, more or less, is that you do get the finality of things that people took a long time to watch. And there's something that I find guilty pleasure in sometimes when I turn something on and I realize, man, everybody's been watching this for 3 hours, and I'm about to watch the part that everybody's been waiting for, and I didn't have to sit through the 3 hours. I do that to NASCAR a good amount now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to find the last 15 laps. I'm going to watch them. It's going to be fun, and I could care less what happened in the other 275 of them. The other thing I did this weekend is I turned on the old PGA Tour.
Really?
Yeah, big golf guy. I turned on the PGA Tour, and unfortunately, and I'm sure you can pull us up in real time, unfortunately, there was a what we would call somebody that choked. Now, Elliot, I know you know nothing about falling apart on a golf course.
No, I don't.
But my
What a
man
stray.
was
stray.
23 under par. So you can get a pretty good semblance of an idea of how the course was playing that week, right?
Yeah.
Not all that tough. The first 3 days, we go birdie, birdie, birdie on 18, right?
Yeah.
Guess what we need to pretty much win? What do you think we need to win the tournament?
Bogey.
We need a par.
Really? Okay.
We need a par to win the tournament. We've went birdie, birdie, birdie every day. Drive, not all that bad of a drive. Just left side of the fairway. I think it was a little bit in the rough. Decides it was a par 5, decides to go for it in 2, because if he can get there in 2, he automatically wins, right?
Oh, so it was a parring a par 5.
Parring a par 5.
Okay.
Went birdie, birdie, birdie again as a reminder. And instead decides to go 3-wood off the deck. Finds himself in a tough situation where he's got a terrible stance out of a bunker. Duffs it.
Oh, no.
Just duffs it. Goes about 8 feet. Winds himself back up into the hillside bunker again. Then he chips on, misses the putt, and the guy he's playing with birdies 2-shot swing, loses. Pretty tough.
No. And his name was Coles.
Yes.
So shout out to this guy, Ben Coles.
Ben Coles.
He was the one to give it away. I saw this leaderboard. So I went golfing yesterday, and I saw the leaderboard in our clubhouse where we were golfing. And when I tell you I didn't know a single name in the top 20, I couldn't have been. You literally, and this is where kind of LIV is starting to get a little hold of the sport, because who are these people? I've never heard of any of them.
They don't play every weekend, but yeah.
Who are Pendrith? Who's Pendrith?
But here's the thing about the tour.
Who's Coles?
Oh my gosh.
Who's Wallace? Who's Rye?
Alex Wallace.
We got some guy named Knapp, Tway, Merritt, Campos, Samakawa, Griffin, Histatun.
Are you done with your bit yet? Are you done?
It's just that's not a bit. That's 20 names I just rattled off, and I know none of them for a PGA Tour event. None of them.
Well, that's fair, but I think that the argument that some golf fans have is that they prefer to just be able to watch every single week than live where it's not every single week. And on top of that, you get to see riveting moments like last week. You got guys that are trying to win their first PGA Tour event, and they just there's a saying that, it's something the bed,
Yeah.
That's what happened. Just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
And that's fun. Sports are fun.
What are your
Would
thoughts?
you rather watch a really quick question?
Yeah.
Would you rather watch somebody on the last second or would you rather someone absolutely just fall apart? Now, personally, you're not rooting for it, but I know is it more enjoyable to watch someone just completely have a meltdown, or somebody get hot at the end and find a way to barely?
Oh, the
barely
meltdown's
win?
the best. The meltdown is always the Jordan Spieth Masters is my favorite Masters. Giving a scrub like Danny Willett that green jacket's my favorite moment of all time. What are your thoughts on Brooks Koepka being the first LIV player to win his fourth event on tour?
I think it's relatively meaningless. However, I did watch a little bit of the LIV broadcast myself on Saturday.
Was it good?
No. I gotta be honest. I don't like it. And I don't have anything against LIV. Go make your money. But
I do think it's wild how on hole one, they're just blaring music in the background. Everybody's just partying. It's and their whole thing is, yeah, we're cool. We're the cool golf. Right. It's yeah, but nobody really wants to watch that.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's hard to keep up with because they're all on the course at the same time, and it gets my brain can't keep up like many other things in life. All right. Let's talk about the Tom Brady roast for a minute. You obviously said how long did you watch it?
I got home last night around 11, and I said, I'll sure watch this roast. I'm sure it'll be an hour. It's a 3-hour long thing, a 3-hour long event, and I put it on. I got about 2.5 hours in. I got 2 hours, and I got 40 minutes left to go. So 2 hours 20 minutes I watched last night. No joke. It was probably one of the better things I've seen content-wise over the past year. I thought Tom Brady agreeing to it was phenomenal. I thought every roaster, for the most part, was really good. There was a couple duffs, and I'll tell you those if you want them. But I thought him agreeing to that shows what kind of guy he is. That's a big move. I thought Bill Belichick coming out supporting his former quarterback, that was really cool. Drew Bledsoe being there to support the guy who screwed him over, I thought that was cool. I thought it was a really cool event. I will say, shout out to Randy Moss. I love Randy Moss. Guy tried his best. Bad roaster. Bad roaster.
Not a very good actor.
No.
Not a good comedian.
No.
Best and worst. Your best and worst.
Best was Nikki Glaser. By far the best, bar none.
I'm glad she's getting recognition. I've been a Nikki Glaser fan for 6-7 years now. She's fantastic.
When I tell you she took Gronk to the woodshed, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And then she started calling out. My favorite part about the roast isn't even when they roast the person there, like Tom Brady. She got to Tom Brady eventually. When she goes around the room and starts attacking everybody, it's the best thing you'll ever watch. And there was another guy who came in. I've never seen this person. I still don't know his name today. But he came in towards the end of the roast. It was right after Dana White spoke. Whoever that guy was, hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. He gets the second spot. Edelman, I thought, was phenomenal. I don't know if you guys saw Edelman's. And the loser of the night was Kim Kardashian. Horrible. She got booed.
Yeah.
She got booed by the entire crowd. Bert and Tom Segura, they didn't do good. My guys, I like Bert. I like Tom Segura a lot. I thought their bit was by far the worst of the night. They didn't do the worst of the night, but their bit was horrible. Who else was there?
I thought Brady's roast of Kim was pretty funny.
I didn't see. I haven't gotten to Brady's part yet. I've seen everybody's else. I mean, we can spoil it. I don't care.
No spoilers.
But I will say, probably the biggest loser tonight, low key, Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah,
boy, man, they piled on top of him, didn't they? They wouldn't let up.
Are you suggesting Aaron Hernandez's reputation's ruined now?
No, I'm just saying, man.
They hung him out to dry.
You talk about beating a dead horse, man. They beat that guy into the dirt. I mean, I've never seen such a whooping on a human being. That was brutal. It was funny, but it was brutal.
I thought Bill's joke about the Apple documentary, the Dynasty documentary, was great. Have you seen the Dynasty documentary? I mean, it is literally 10 episodes of why Bill Belichick was Bill.
I'm hoping this doesn't become what golf did with the match on TNT, where that first match between Tiger and Phil was so good and everybody liked it, and then they just started doing it every weekend, and it's like Jordan versus Rory and Rory versus Tom Brady and Tom Brady versus Josh Allen. It's like nobody. All right, we can stop that now. That's nonsense. I'm hoping they don't do that, but I would like one of these a year. Get one famous athlete or celebrity. I would hopefully an athlete. I think athletes are way more fun to roast.
Don't you think that there's some
didn't they do that with Comedy Central?
They did it at Comedy Central. They didn't do athletes though. They would only do celebrities.
Right.
Don't you think there's some semblance of psychological, not warfare, but there's something to be had about the idea of not overplaying a card? Because I was thinking the other day, like there's certainly some establishments and I won't name them by names because I don't want it to make it sound. But I think that they're like average at best. But since they're only open for like a small limited amount of time throughout certain seasons, it becomes like oh, I have to go do this because they close at 3:00 every day. Yeah. You know, if they were open until 11 every single day, it would be like, oh, I can go get that whenever I want, and then inevitably you never actually go. I wonder if the NFL, and I know the NFL is becoming, and they're dragging their season out more and more and more and more. But I wonder just because it's once a week, right? There's this notion that it's like on Sunday, you know there's no other day. And now, again, I get people are like, well, they play on Mondays now. They play on Thursdays. And then they play on Wednesdays if it's around the holidays. It's like I get what I'm about to say. But for the most part, the reason that the NFL, I guess, I don't want to say had some semblance of success. And by some semblance, I mean becomes the world's most popular sport in America. In America, to be clear. Don't want to be disrespectful to football, which we'll get into me having to actually be a referee in a soccer game.
That was great.
That was good.
That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever actually been a part of or seen, by the way.
I got to find that picture. I got to find that picture. And
yeah, go ahead. We can put it up for the YouTube audience, for those that didn't see. And the radio audience is going to continue to dislike the fact that we continue to reference things that they can't see. But my point was like, I wonder if more and more sports will eventually try to find ways in which they can dominate small sectors of time frames. And Major League Baseball, for lack of a better term, like I think that's part of the reason as to why it became a little null void for a while, just too many games. And I know we haven't really talked about this in great length before, but it's like they're never going to change it because of the resources or the revenue that's generated from all of the games. But it certainly feels like if they were able to try to make more opportunities in short spurts, there could be lightning in a bottle in that aspect. Now, I don't know if there's a perfect way to do it, but it certainly seems like Major League Baseball at some point in the future is going to try it.
I think they could probably expand what they do at the All-Star Week a little more to try and dominate that week. But baseball, I think, will shorten its schedule at some points, but not to the extent in which you want, Trace. I think it would be like a 154-game season. They just take one off day a week.
Yeah, I would love, and I know people are going to be like, some people would vehemently disagree with me for this, and I get it, but I would love nothing more than like 120 games. And I think that is a more than long enough time frame to where you can get a reasonable, fair, competitive balance. It doesn't feel like it's too short, but it also, again, to be clear, I would really like to watch World Series games when it's not possibly 30 degrees outside. That would be a lovely thought, an idea. And also, to be honest, the idea that Major League Baseball is ever going to get like really, really popular and have people just glued to the television to watch their most meaningful moments is probably not going to happen because there's football.
No, 100%. My dream would be 130. You either cut the first month off or the last month off. Because I do think if you're bad in September, nothing is worse than September baseball when your team is 15 games below 500. Just bad. It's just a bad product at that point. That would be my dream. But I would say, listen, I think baseball's done a good job with the rule changes. I think they're trying their best to make the sport as entertaining as possible. Saturday, I know that game was brutal for me personally because I'm a Reds fan. Game only was 2 hours and 20 minutes. 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's a fun game. It's not 5 hours. We're not sitting there watching everybody just take steps off the mound and take their time and all that. So
right.
I wouldn't hate 130 games.
Yeah. And listen, I think everyone in the chat's already laughing at us because they say it's never going to happen. And the reason it's not going to happen is because of money, and we all understand that. But at some point, it'd be kind of cool if we lived in a society to where we just try to do what's best for the consumer and then realize on the back end we probably might get paid off from that. But that's here nor there. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the old Red Legs. We'll talk about the Red Legs for a minute, and then what's left in the world of sports. That and more on 1410 Wing AM. All right, welcome back into Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Just went around the world of sports a little bit. A little Tom Brady roast coupled in with what Major League Baseball could possibly do to help themselves grow. But speaking of Major League Baseball, I watched almost every single pitch. Now, I didn't get a chance to see every pitch because I had to watch, and by watch I mean referee some soccer this weekend. So I missed 2 innings of a baseball game. Now, I will tell you, when I was displeased, that's the word that comes to mind. Because of all the things that I do enjoy doing, one of them is actually just watching my son play. Like, I can just sit down and not know anything about the sport and just be there, and just watch. And there's something that's actually enjoyable about that. Now, I will admit, Casey, the more I watch, the more I understand the game, the more I realize where players should be, the more I realize what's good and bad. I'm starting to dislike that about myself. Yeah. The reason I dislike it is because I love being naive. There is nothing better in the world than being naive. Now, you might think that that's not the case, but I am here to tell you that, have you ever, as I said before, have you ever seen the people just stand in the middle of the grocery aisle and there's 9 carts lined up behind them and they're just looking for their coffee or they're looking for their cereal? Now, you might think that person's the world's worst person, and I would actually agree with you. But the reality is that we all want to be that person, because if you're that person, then the only thing that you care about really is what you feel. Now, that's very selfish, I get. But sometimes I just want to sit in my chair, watch my son play, and they're like, hey, we need some assistant referees. Now, I don't know if it's because I was skinny, if it looked like I become like, maybe it's because of I look like an athlete. They thought I knew the game. When I tell you I knew one rule, that's all I knew. I knew offsides, Casey. Then they were just trying to tell me, oh, you just got to worry about where it bounces off.
Do you know offsides?
I do know offsides, yes.
Casey, can you please put the picture back on the screen? I didn't get to comment on that.
You did look grumpy.
I've never.
This is a bad picture. We all have the bad pictures. I was not this grumpy.
I've never seen anybody who didn't want to be there more than this picture shows that you did not want to be there.
Very grumpy.
I mean, you look like you are ready to die. That's what you look like there. And listen, I don't fault you. Watching soccer is a brutal thing, especially when they're little guys. But look, credit to you. I'm sure you did you favor your team at all?
I think I actually did the opposite.
Really?
And that's the sad part. Is in my mind I was like, if there's a really close call that I'm not sure of, I'm just going to lean on the opposing team, because I'm not going to be told that I'm a homer. I'd rather my own people get mad at me. Which I don't know. Would you do that, or would you have favored your?
I would have favored the team. Yeah, you get. What are they going to do? What are the fans going to do?
I'm with you, Trace. I would absolutely favor the other team, because you don't want to be accused of like, oh, it's just because he's the dad of so and so player. It's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, my favorite call of the game came towards the end. My son's team was up 4-0.
Very good.
Some would say 4-0, but. And there was one of those close situations on the sideline where they kick it and it ricochets twice, and all of a sudden it bounces out. Now, I do actually think that it kind of barely nicked one of the opposing team's players when it went out, and I still gave them the ball. And then one of the guys looked at me from our team like, "Hey, I think you missed that call," and I was like, "It was off of them, but you're up 4-0." So sir. And the kid just kind of stared at me like, when you're a little bit older, you'll understand.
I like that.
We're gonna give them a break here. You guys are pounding these guys. Let's at least let them have something. Their ball.
You were the people's ref there. Was it so? It was just you and that guy, you and the main ref.
It was me, the main ref, and then another parent on the other side. So yeah, and I had to call one offsides. I did, and I nailed the call. So I'm 100% officially,
That's
perfect on my endeavor to become a AR. I think is what they called me.
Really?
How have you guys ever seen a high school volleyball match? They do that same thing in high school volleyball where parents are the referees.
They have
That's
students
wild.
too.
Yeah,
They'll
they're
just
just like
grab
they're just
anyone.
like, and you're just saying in or out, but it's just wild that like we're talking varsity athletics.
I just got a big brained idea that I think actually could make us all millionaires.
Oh baby,
You ready? I'm serious. There's technology out there right now that we could create.
Yeah.
To where we put up a camera that just maybe 2 cameras that down each sideline, and it can cover the baseline in the one side, and it literally will be immediate, and it'll tell you if the ball bounced, it was in or out based off of just some kind of AI data, and it would just then you did get rid of the line refs just totally. It turns green if the ball was in, turns red if the ball was out.
I'm sure that
Feel like that 100% should have already been made. Why isn't that out?
I feel like high schools will be willing to dump thousands and thousands of dollars into this solution for their volleyball teams.
There's ref shortages, Reed. There's ref shortages, Reed. And on top of that, you don't have to pay refs again. Like, we just got to make it competitive to where you basically.
Well, you still have to have the ref at the middle, right? You still got to have the double hit.
That's until we get even better cameras. Okay. At some point, we're gonna just eliminate every human.
Although I think they removed double hits from college volleyball. Someone told me that recently.
Did. Of course, you're gonna have one ref, but let's get rid of the ARs. We don't need ARs.
I agree.
Big brain idea. Nobody steal that, by the way. Don't steal that. I'm gonna. I'm gonna go and.
I can't wait for you to sit down with an athletic director, and be like, "Hey, I've got a way that you could
not pay referees ever again."
Well, you still got to pay.
They'll be listening, baby.
You've got to once again you've got to pay for the center ref, which they already pay for. But instead of asking parents to volunteer their time, you're going to put thousands of dollars towards your volleyball team. And it'll make it better, and I think you'll get laughed out of the media.
Yeah, and I'll say, you know what? You might think that's a bad idea, but you know what else is a bad idea? Buying Huddle Elite for your football team that hasn't won 4 games in the last 35 years. But you guys keep acting like you're doing a lot of good things with that Huddle Elite program you got. That probably struck a nerve in some athletic directors. But you know what? Maybe you shouldn't spend $10,000 a year on some big video package when you got guys that it doesn't matter what you're doing. I don't care if PFF decides to drop all of their functionality in the NFL and go straight to your high school to help you become a better football program. You're still not going to win because at the end of the day, it's the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's. All right. We were supposed to talk about the Reds, and that's what we'll do now. I don't know how much time we have left in this segment, but here's my thought on it.
7 minutes.
Pretty simple. This is a pretty simple thing. I beat the dead horse as much as dead as it could possibly be over the weekend, and I'm just done doing that because at this point we all know what it is. This just team's not good. They're not good. They're not good right now. That's the facts. And if you can't see that, that's fine. Just keep watching. You must have not watched enough of them yet. And again, could it get all turned itself around at some point relatively soon when TJ Friedel comes back? I sure hope so. But the good news is, Elliot, as I'll say this. If I'm allowed to be somewhat...
Good news, huh?
There's some good news coming.
Can't wait to hear this.
Ready? They can't be this bad. They genuinely can't be this bad.
Yeah.
Now, will they be bad? Maybe. But I don't know if... And I know for a fact they're not this bad. Here's the crux of the issue, though. It's one thing to suggest that obviously some of these guys are going to water find its level, look at the back of the baseball card, all of the old, cliche terms that you've heard time and time again. That's one thing. The other part of the equation, though, that we're not really talking about, though, is that we talk about all of the regression and all the issues we have offensively, but we don't really talk about what the bullpen might end up being. We don't talk about what the starting pitching might end up being. And the reality is that there's probably going to be some regression on the starting pitching and some from the bullpen. Now, how much? I don't know. But I do know this. You can only bury yourself so deep until you actually have a realistic run in you. Yep. And that's where we're at now. Because over the next 20 days, this team could put themselves in a position where they just can't no matter how good they play for the rest of the year, the chances of them actually putting themselves in contention will not be realistic if they don't figure it out relatively soon. And I think that's where most of the frustration from people that are screaming and yelling on what is now, May the 7th at this point? I think that's relatively fair. It's the old golf analogy that you hear, right? You can't win a tournament on Thursday, but you sure as hell can lose it. Now, can you rebound after a bad round on Thursday and finally win on Sunday? Sure, you can. But if you put yourself completely out of contention on Thursday, then you know you can't. And I think that's where this Reds team is right now. Is can they find a way to just scratch and claw out a couple wins that they don't deserve, similar to Saturday. Saturday, it felt like they were outplayed all game. They looked abysmal. They found themselves in a position where, believe it or not, it's hard to believe, they were one hit away from winning on Saturday. But they didn't, and it's all for naught. But point being is I do wish and hope and pray that they can just survive in advance, because right now they are awful. And I think they'll finish last in the division if they have this same team going forward and they don't get that much production or that much better production. That's how bad they are.
Yeah, I was there Friday and Saturday. Their at-bats aren't competitive anymore. The body language of these guys, it's significantly worse from when this season started. I noticed it a lot with Will Benson. Will Benson doesn't look good right now. Like, he doesn't look comfortable. He doesn't look like he's having fun. And I'm not saying you have to have fun when you're on a slump, like majority of these guys are. And I kept seeing that, it's just take a breath, bide your time. They can't all slump throughout the entire year. The issue is you're playing the most difficult part of your schedule. The one caveat to this schedule, and I thought I thought what was going to propel this team to get through it is that they aren't going to get swept. I don't think there's a team that outside of the Dodgers really that should be good enough to sweep us during the stretch. And it's a hard schedule, but they're the only ones that I thought, like, all right, they're going to be our sweep. They're going to sweep us. The Orioles, again, very, very good baseball team, very good pitching staff, but I didn't think they were good enough to sweep us. The Orioles aren't that much better than the Reds, paper-wise, on paper. Obviously they are right now.
Yeah,
What?
right. What are you talking about?
I think the Reds are, if they were healthy and they played their best, they're almost as good as the Orioles. Yes.
The
I believe that.
Orioles won 101 games in the American League East last year.
I think the
The
Reds
Reds won 82 games in the National League Central.
If the Reds were healthy this season, I think the Reds are just as competitive as the Baltimore Orioles. Yes, I do believe that. Yeah.
Is it because the Baltimore Orioles stigma and the history, and that's why maybe you're sitting here and acting like they're not very, like, not that you're not.
I'm not saying they're not good. No.
But
I'm not saying they're not good. I'm not saying they're not good.
I'm
saying they're not the Dodgers. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I would say that they're just as good as the Dodgers.
I think they could be. Sure. By the time the season's over, they could have certainly
right
as
now.
many
I'd
wins.
say they are right now.
But I here's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to overreact too much.
Crazy.
What?
You think that the Reds are on par with the Orioles? Sorry, you can continue your thought, but it's not close, man.
It's not close?
Yeah.
I think if the Reds were fully healthy, as I stated, if the Reds were fully healthy, I don't think you get swept. And I think there's a sizable chance you win the series.
Well, they threw the ball relatively well, that's for sure.
They threw the ball great up until yesterday. But I'm not going to sit here and think the Reds are some Oakland Athletics type of situation here.
But I think they are.
You think so? You're in dire. You're done. You're out.
Well, I'm not out, but I think that we're being, like, collectively, and I guess at some point, it doesn't mean. Here's the thing, like, can we at least agree that there's a difference between people that completely always bash the Reds no matter what, say they sell the team, Bob, and this, that, and the next, and it's never good enough, and no one's caring to win, no one tries. That all is nonsense to me. I do think that there are times in which you do what's best for your team and you actually care and you want to win. I believe the Castellinis want to win. I think some of the comments that were made before were out of frustration because they haven't won. Like, it'd be one thing to just go out there with a suit and tie and just say things that everybody wants to hear and not care and not have your emotions out there because you genuinely don't care, right?
Yeah.
Than to be the opposite, right? Like, what the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And I don't think that this franchise is indifferent about winning. I think that they care. Now, there are times in which maybe you could argue that there's frustration there and they say things they're not supposed to say. And maybe you could argue that, they don't spend money, but they have spent money. They've just sucked when they've spent money. They've went out and they spent money on Candelaria. They went out and spent money on Moustakas. They went out and spent money on Homer Bailey. They went out and spent money on Joey Votto. So, yeah, they've spent money. My main point to having said all of this is that at the end of the day, though, we can all agree that if you're not in that camp of, sell the team, they never care, you don't have to be all the way on the other side of saying that everything's going to be fine either. I think if you're realistic and you look at this team right now, they are one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. That's who they are right now.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a type of person that would like to say, show me something, and I'll think differently. That's fine. So when we get it right after this break on 1410 Wing AM, I'll explain, hopefully eloquently, just what I mean. That and more on 1410 Wing AM. All right, we are back on 1410 Wing AM, off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. And right before break, obviously, I went in and I suggested that you don't have to be always on one side of the aisle when it comes to your fandom. I think it's fair to be emotional. It's fair to try to be rational in what you're seeing. And right now, again, to be clear, does it mean that I'm completely out on this franchise? They've made a ton of bad decisions. Nick Krall should be fired. David Bell should be fired. Get a new hitting coach. Get rid of all the players. No. I don't think firing David Bell does a damn thing. I don't think getting rid of Nick Krall does a thing, right? Getting rid of Nick Krall would be laughable. But point is that there are some people that are going to scream and yell about these types of things. There are people that are going to be upset about the hitting coach and look how bad this team is. And you need to get a new guy here. But I can also say, when I watch a team play for an extended period of time, I've come to the conclusion personally that this team is terrible. They are bad. Because personally, it's hard for me to digest the idea that in a 3 or 4 week time frame, you're going to have your entire team almost, outside of Ellie De La Cruz and maybe Spencer Steer here or there, the rest of this team, they're such inconsistent players that it's hard for me to suggest that they're good. Because being good also is very, very in line, in my opinion. There is a very direct connection with being consistent. That is what a good player does. Yep. They show up to the field, they're available, and you can expect something out of them each and every single day. There's a lot of players on this team where when they're going good, they are a good, if not great player in the league, yeah? But the problem is that you can't then go for 3 and 4 weeks at a time looking at Will Benson and be completely irrelevant. Looking at CES. Spencer Steer, I think he's the closest one of this group that we keep talking about that's closest to saying, you know what, major league player. Might not be a major league left fielder, but at least I know I'm going to get consistent at-bats out of him. When he comes up to the plate in the 9th inning, if the game's on the line, I feel pretty good about it. Outside of Ellie De La Cruz and Spencer Steer right now, honest to goodness truth, that's 2 guys out of a full roster of players. Yeah. Everybody else, I have zero confidence in. And if I have to say that out loud, I just think it's more than fair to say this is one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. And I think statistics would back that up. Oh, and I also think that their play has backed that up. And I think just the overall vibe that this team puts out backs that up. Does it mean the rest of the year they're going to be the worst team in Major League Baseball, to be clear? No. But until they show me otherwise, I will continue to say that unless they get help or unless they go out and they again, they're not going to make a trade. So we'll talk about the crux of this issue. I think there's a more than fair argument of what the Reds should do now, because right now they are one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball. I think, and I was having a debate with Red superstar Evan Maurer this weekend on it, and it's you can't replace the whole roster. You can't do it. At some point, you need Will Benson, you need CES, you need Candelario to figure it out. You can't replace 7 guys in a lineup. But you can't help that. You can't help it. Staying still and doing nothing is bad. That's a bad look.
It's you not doing your job. That's the Reds front office, who has been getting a lot of praise over the past year and a half. That should be a knock on them significantly, that we're still sticking with this same group of 13 guys, eight of which are hitting below the Mendoza line. 8 guys out of 13 are hitting below the Mendoza line. The bottom 5 of this roster, if I'm going to be completely honest, they shouldn't be in the majors. And this is no disrespect, but we have Nick Martini, Santiago Espinal, Luke Maile, and Bubba Thompson. Bubba Thompson doesn't play. You have a guy occupying a roster spot who does not play. The only time he plays is when somebody not as fast as him gets on in the 9th inning when you're trailing. Do you know how absurd it is to keep that guy on your roster? If it's the playoffs, sure, that guy has a role. He can come in. He's not going to ever swing. But by God, you're going to need him in the base path eventually, surely in a playoff series. But when you're trying to score runs, when you've scored 15 runs in 7 games, when you're averaging 2.5 runs over the past, 3 weeks now? 2 weeks? You need help. There is somebody on the free agent market that's not a lot of money and that is surely better than Bubba Thompson. And by the way, the only qualification to be better than Bubba Thompson is that you have arms and legs and can get in the game. That's the only qualification that you need to be better than Bubba Thompson. And pretty much that's the same way for Nick Martini, Santiago Espinal as well. And this is no knock on Luke Maile. I like Luke Maile, friend of the program, Luke Maile. You're hitting 140. You're hitting
so
140.
It begs the question: what is the front office supposed to do?
They're
right?
supposed to sign somebody.
And here's where there is a very clear disconnect between what was said out loud and what truly is going on. Now, behind closed doors, none of us know really what the Reds actually mean, say, or believe. But the problem that I ultimately have is that you come out into Reds Fest and over the offseason, right, and you said out loud, right, that the goal was to win the NL Central. And if that's the goal, okay, does that mean the goal significantly changes just because you have 2 or 3 guys go down? And if the answer is yes, then you don't want to say that out loud to the public? Okay, then I guess some of the decision-making that's going on behind the scenes makes a little more sense. But you can't, on one end, say that we're going to basically try to win a division, and on the other end, when things happen to your ball club that make it to where that is no longer the case, do you just completely, do you fold? Did the front office just look at what happened to the Reds in this basically in March and just say, you know what? I know we got these cards that we kind of liked at the beginning of the season. I'm just going to pitch them in because at the end of the day, we don't think we can compete anymore. So I'm not going to go out and I'm not going to trade XYZ and this, and the whole prospect thing, of course, is going to be an endless debate. Let's be very clear. The Reds' best path to have success in Major League Baseball, as we know, is 100% through getting quality prospects that come up through the system. You then obviously get to utilize their service time, and then they go off into the sunset more or less, more times than not. Of course, every so often, maybe you can sign and extend a guy like Elly De La Cruz that you think could be a franchise player. But for the vast majority of these guys, right, they're going to be used for 2 to 3 to 4 years at a time, and then they move on, and you hope to replace them with somebody just as good, if not better, who's coming up behind them. But we're in a position now where this Reds franchise and this Reds front office has decided to vehemently to make sure that they're going to protect their farm system at all cost. And you know what? I can fall into that line. You can convince me that, you know what, we've over the course of time, we've lost sight of what truly matters, and we can't trade away prospect after prospect after prospect for Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid, and that ultimately never gets you to where you ultimately want to go, which is to win a World Series. Of course, I can sign up for that. But what I can't sign up for is to come out here and suggest to me that you're ready to go, that we got the guys in the house that we need. And then all of a sudden, in a month, you're going to continue just to run out the same old group of guys each and every single day. When, if again, I'm all for it. If you want to convince me it's still early, no big deal, this will all shake itself up. Well, if it's still early enough to get it all figured out, then let's go and try to fix a problem that we have. If you think that Nick Martini and Bubba Thompson, again, is an answer, and they're going to be here for the rest of the year, and that's going to help them get to the postseason, then we just disagree. Then we can't see eye to eye. Because you know it, and I know it, and the front office down at the Reds know it. They damn well know that Bubba Thompson, and I get that he's going to be gone on Tuesday. Hell, he might be gone today. I don't know. TJ Friedel's going to be up. Bubba Thompson's going to be gone. So maybe I should stop picking on Bubba. I'm looking directly at Nick Martini now. You can't not do your job in a professional setting this long and continue to get a leash that you've never earned before. You've never earned it. Just because you got a couple big hits doesn't mean you get to hit $170 in Major League Baseball for a month and a half when you have the world's worst offense. And when I say world's worst offense, I legitimately mean Major League Baseball's worst offense. You don't get to hang around. Sorry. And yeah, you can make fun of me for wanting to bring up Mike Ford, this quadruple A player. He's really going to fix it. At least you're showing your culture, your clubhouse, that there's some semblance that you give a rat, that you care, that you want to try to fix the problem. Because I know where I come from. If there's a problem in the house or there's a problem in your business and everybody sees that there's a problem and you just decide, you know what, I'm going to show up to work and we're going to ignore it and act like it doesn't exist and we don't care. You know what ultimately happens? You ultimately get to a spot where you got a bad culture because you're going to have multiple people in that clubhouse or that business or that family that think you should do it a different way. And you probably should do it a different way. You ever seen parents in life where they parent one kid a little bit differently than the rest of the kids and everybody else can see it? And it ultimately ends up to where there's some family dynamic that there's an issue there. Because all we're asking is for fairness. And I don't think it's asking a hell of a lot to just say, you know what? Let's bring somebody up to see if maybe we get lucky. Maybe we hit a lottery. Maybe Nick Martini isn't the guy. Maybe Mike Ford can come in the bottom of the 8th inning, and instead of it being, I don't know, Luke Maile pinch hitting a $140, it's Mike Ford. And maybe Mike Ford gets lucky and he hits a home run. And it does make a difference. Because I know this, the vibes around the clubhouse, if they would have gotten a hit in the 9th inning on Saturday, would have been vehemently different. You could argue that would have changed the dynamic of the clubhouse overnight. Now there's confidence. Now we feel good about ourselves. But instead, let's out there on Sunday. You get beat 11-1 because everybody's feeling sorry for themselves. So no, I'm not going to apologize because I want to bring up a quadruple A player. Have you looked around the clubhouse and asked yourself how many other quadruple A players are on the team right now? There's a whole hell of a lot. Let's not sit here and act like this roster's perfect. So I'm sorry that we care. I'm sorry that we want to bring somebody up. And yeah, will it fix everything? No. But damn it, at least show me that you care. Show me you want to try. And maybe it doesn't make a bit of difference in the end, but at least I know you give a rat. And right now it just seems like we're going to stand pat because it's too early and we just want to try to weasel our way through this and act like there's no sense of urgency. And maybe behind the scenes it's different, but I know this. On the forefront to the general public, the sign you're putting out is this, right before we head to break here on 1410, is you have a manager and you have a front office who always seems like there's no sense of urgency. Should they get fired? No. And maybe behind the scenes, they're lighting fires everywhere. But I know this, to the public, it's ho-hum. No big deal. Let's mumble through the press conferences, act like everything's going to be fine. And you know what? There are people that dedicate a significant portions of their life to follow this team. Am I going to be upset at them because they're tired of watching the world's worst offense? No. We'll talk about it. We'll get everybody's reaction right after this on 1410 Wing AM. All right. Quite the rant there on the last segment.
I like
for those that didn't see it.
Beautiful. That was brilliant.
I liked it.
You know, listen, there are times where in life you realize that both sides of the aisle actually have a fair and valid point, but it seems as if both sides just don't want to acknowledge the other side. And I would just say that everybody that's upset about this Mike Ford, Nick Martini situation, they have a little semblance of truth, but it really irritates me when one side just acts like the other side is just completely idiots for it. And it just seems like the more and more we go on, there were people over the weekend, some that are on the radio, that are just making fun of the idea that Mike Ford's like, oh my God, like, sorry for thinking that might actually help when you have Luke Maile pinch hitting in baseball games in the 8th and 9th inning of one-run games. Luke Maile is hitting $140. Like, it shouldn't be that hard to say, yeah, we want to bring somebody up.
And by the way, I'd like to note that Yeah, should we be picking on Bubba Thompson and Nick Martini as much as we are? Probably not.
No.
Because their role again is skewed because half the roster is hurt, half the roster sucks, and they have to play games. They have to play. Now Bubba doesn't play. Bubba is just there for fun, I guess. I don't know what sort of program he has. But he just shows up, he puts on the jersey, and every once in a while they'll call his name. But yeah, Will Benson is a guy that is struggling mightily. He was a guy this year that I thought should be an everyday outfielder. As of right now, he's not. He has 113 at-bats. He has 50 strikeouts. 113 at-bats. He has 50 strikeouts. When you're
can you extrapolate that out, please? Over how many at bats you get in the major league season?
If you
700?
No, that's if you're batting leadoff for all.
It's like 400, right?
He'd probably get like 450 to 5. Probably 500. We'll say 500, make it a nice even number. So he's on pace for 250 strikeouts. He's second in the league right now in strikeouts, only behind Kyle Schwarber.
And it's almost like similarly to how he started his Reds tenure last season, where he wasn't there mentally. He wasn't there. It seems like he's not there mentally at the plate right now. Defensively, he's been great. Defensively, he has been there. Offensively, no. CES.
He's not hitting 40 home runs?
CES, it appears to not be hitting 40 home runs. Not yet, at least. He's hitting 195. He's drawn 3 walks. Do you know how hard it is to draw only 3 walks as a professional baseball player? All you have to do, for the most part, is stand there, and you will get more than 3 walks. That's a fact. And he is swinging at trash. It is garbage. And I don't know how many times we have to pick on Jeimer Candelario, and he had that fun little series in San Diego, but he's terrible too. Horrible. And coming into this season, Reed said it last week. I said it the week before. We've all said it. Depth. It's been the biggest part of the Reds. You could have made the argument coming into this season that they could have gone without signing a free agent because they had every position before. Again, this is before all the injuries. They had every single position filled out and then some. Clearly, that was not the case. Clearly, I was wrong in thinking that. Jeimer Candelario, we have him for 2 more years after this. If this is what's going to be the case, very clearly he's not making it to the end of those years, the 3rd year. No chance. It's hard to be this bad. It's genuinely hard to be as bad as some of these guys are playing right now.
India's playing bad, too.
Jonathan India's playing
he's almost got the same OPS as Candelario.
Terribly. Jonathan India's playing terribly. And by the way, Jonathan India, I love him. Leader of the team, yada, yada, yada. Can't defend. Can't do it whatsoever. I've tried to be in his corner, but he can't defend. And it goes back to what Trey said last week. All of these guys, except for Ellie, and probably, I don't know, I'd even say Spencer is being asked. I'd say all of these guys are being asked to do things they shouldn't be asked to do. Every single one.
Besides at the plate. That's the only part of this where we're again, the vast majority of the issue right now is what they're doing offensively. And at some point, these guys are major league players, and you got to find a way to become a little bit better. And the reason that we pick on Martini and we pick on Bubba Thompson is because we know in our heart of hearts that those guys are expendable. We also know that you can't replace the whole team. You can't get rid of CES. You can't get rid of India. You can't get rid of Will Benson. You can't get rid of, I guess, Luke Mailey. We know that those guys inevitably at some point are going to have to turn themselves around. But at least, I guess, the semi-argument you would have there is that you've seen them do it over a prolonged period of time before to where you have some semblance of belief they might be able to do it. I got news for you. Bubba Thompson, I've never seen it. Not a single day in my life have I seen where I'm like, Bubba Thompson, that guy looks like he's a guy that we probably want to keep a hold of, right? Like, I guess my question would be, how come on one end a guy like Jose Barrero gets no leash at all because we just don't think he's good enough to make the team? We knew a month before opening day that a guy like Jose Barrero, we don't need him anymore. And you know what? Again, Jose Barrero, I've not kept tabs on him. Maybe he hadn't even got an opportunity to play. Maybe he's been hurt.
He's not had an at-bat. He's not played in a game this year.
And so maybe he's been hurt and it wouldn't have mattered anyways. But my point is, like, we walk around here and acting like we had everything figured out and we're good to go, and we got guys like Bubba Thompson on this team right now. And I guess that's why you pick on them, is because we know they're expendable. I don't know what
and again, I really don't mean to pick on Bubba Thompson. I'm sure he's the world's greatest human being. Saying that, I don't know how you give him the 13th spot of a roster. I don't understand it. He doesn't play. Right. Jose Barrero at least got in the games. He swung a couple bats. He played a little bit of defense. You're rostering a guy who makes not only 0% impact, a negative impact. Just because you have him there and it's the 8th inning and you still don't have any hits.
He's gone today or tomorrow, to be clear.
No,
he legitimately is.
Okay.
He's gone today or he's gone tomorrow. TJ Friedel's going to get an option called up from Louisville. He has to be tomorrow. Worst case scenario tomorrow. Maybe they do it today. I don't know whether they're going to do it today or tomorrow, but they will do that. So let's just be very, very clear. Bubba Thompson's about to be gone. At that point, who do we complain about, this, that, and the next? I don't know. But I guess my whole semblance of the upsetness or where we're at is like we just, as Reds fans, sometimes we come into a season and we are fans, right? There's expectations that maybe aren't realistic from some people of saying this is what this team should be or what they're capable of being, and we view everybody on their best day, right? Like we look at Will Benson and we think back at Will Benson through that month and a half, 2 months of baseball that he played last year, where he was one of the best players not only on his team but in the National League. But we kind of just brush off the whole month prior where he looked lost. CES is a guy where we're like, hey, you know what? He's going to hit 35, 40 home runs. This guy's got raw power. But again, we completely disregard what he's done his entire minor league career, which is not walk a whole lot, swing at a lot of pitches, and just assume that it was going to get through. The one thing about this Reds roster right now that I will say that I think is very evident is that we don't know what we have yet. We just don't know. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that it's all over, but we just don't know what we have yet. Elly De La Cruz is probably the only thing that I would genuinely say I'll hang my hat on and saying that there's no way that guy won't be a productive big league player. Outside of that, and besides the starting pitching, of course, I'm talking about the offense specifically. Outside of that, I would still say it's hit or miss. And maybe we get this perfect concoction next year or towards the end of this year to where everybody's clicking at the right time. But it certainly feels very similar that we have a team full of Jay Bruces and not many Joey Vottos. And I know I'm comparing Joey Votto as a Hall of Fame player, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm talking about consistency. I'm talking about when they walk out on the field, you know what you're getting. And as much as I love Jay Bruce, we all know how that went. There were times where he looked like he was the best player in the National League. And then there were a significant amount of time where you thought, again, he looked like he fit right into this offense right now.
Jay Bruce was a great player, but Jay Bruce's biggest knock was that he would go on month-long absences. He'd disappear, and you wouldn't be able to field him. You wouldn't be able to play him, and it would just be rough during that stretch. It was unreasonable to think every single one of these guys was going to be good. That's the part of it, too, where it's almost tough to, looking back on last year, every single one of these guys showed something where they're going to be really good for the Reds going forward. And they still could be, like you said. They could still be good going forward. The sky is not falling yet. The world is not ending yet. But I think you look at what's happening with Baltimore. Baltimore is in a similar place. Baltimore has a lot of guys. A lot of them they called up, and they've been great. Jackson Holliday came up for 30 games. He was terrible. One of the worst players ever. You send him down. You work on things. He'll be back probably later this season. If not later this season, then next season. But it was unreasonable to think that every single one of these, and this is where I'll credit Nick Kirby, because Kirby did say this, it's unreasonable to think that every single one of these prospects were going to continue what they did last season. Some guys were naturally going to go down. Some guys are naturally going to work on things because they're so young. They're working on stuff. They're figuring out how to play in Major League Baseball. But at the same time, looking at this roster right now, and Trace has said it, you can't expect to win games with this lineup. You can't. If Tyler Stevenson's your fourth best hitter, and I love Tyler, he's had a very good season defensively.
No Stevenson slander.
No Stevenson slander.
No, but where do you hit on opening day?
If he's your third best hitter, it's not a recipe for success. It's not. It's Elly De La Cruz. There's Jake Fraley versus a righty. Then there's Spencer Steer. And outside of that, I don't trust anybody. Outside of that, I don't trust really anybody on this roster to swing a bat. Stuart Fairchild should not be playing every day. He is not an everyday player in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Nick
how many
Martinez,
actual everyday players does this team have right now in the lineup?
Not a lot.
Not many.
Bubba Thompson, Luke Maley, Santiago Espinal, Nick Martini, Stuart Fairchild.
Will Benson.
CES.
Yeah.
So it's
Are any of those guys that you just named? And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where if you look yourself in the mirror, it gets pretty hard. You might just laugh it off. But if any of those guys that he just named, if they played on a team that was expected to win 88 plus games, right? If they played on a team where the expectation was we're going to win 88 plus games, we're going to be a viable option in the playoffs, are they even playing? Are they even playing? And the answer is no, they're not. They're not. You know who Will Benson is on a really good team right now? He's our Nick Martini. He's our Bubba Thompson.
Yeah.
He might play once or twice a week, get him some at-bats, see how things are going, but he's not playing a whole hell of a lot. And you know what? I would say that's the case for almost the vast majority of these guys. CES, I got news for you. You play first base on a really good team, and you're going to hit the way that he's hit and look the way that he's looked, you aren't getting that many more at-bats. You're just not. But that's where we're at. What happened was this. Let's be very clear before we head to the break. This team got hot last year with a lot of good, relatively good young prospects. I didn't say good major league players. I said good prospects. And out of those prospect pool of people, we know inevitably one or two of them probably are going to doze off. They're going to fall out from the sunset. And you're going to be like, yeah, I remember them coming up, and they had a pretty good start, but they fizzled out. And then there are going to be some that stick. And the truth is right now is we have a gap. We have a gap between some prospects that we feel good about going into the big leagues and some prospects that we feel good about in maybe a year and a half from now. There's a gap there. And we don't have anybody coming up or coming through the system right now that's going to be able to help just say, hey, we don't really need we don't need to worry because we're just going to bring these guys up and see if they stick. And if they're not ready, that's fine. We'll bring somebody else up. I think that's that is the plan of Nick Krall. Right now, unfortunately, it seems like we got a kind of a half-baked idea, and we're not all the way there yet. And I'm willing to see it through. And behind the scenes, my last point is this. That just might be what they're doing. But that's not what they told the public. And that's where my problem is because if you're going to tell the public one thing, then mean it. It would have been so much more refreshing. And I know it wouldn't have been the popular thing to do. But it would have been more refreshing to me to say, you know what? Our goal at the end of the day here with the Cincinnati Reds is to build a championship franchise. I'll be honest with everybody in saying this. If I'm Nick Krall, I would say, I don't know if we're there yet. We might. We got off to a good start last year. We got some good pieces, but I don't know if we're there yet. And leave it at that. Because if you would have said that to me, in my mind, it would tell me two things. One, that, yeah, you can at least have some semblance of truth about you, and you can just tell the public exactly how you feel. And the other thing would be that you also don't think that you have your plan fully in place yet. And maybe, you're going to have some people that have a rightful gripe to say, you know what, we're tired of waiting. We're tired of waiting. But I'll also say I'm willing to admit myself personally that this wasn't the year that I expected this Reds team to be a bona fide contender. Did I think that it was going to be a fun season to see how some of these guys progressed? Yes. The unfortunate part is that we've lost Marte that we don't ever talk about because Marte obviously did what he did, and he gets somehow a free pass from most people, and you know what? Myself included, because I guess it's because I just think that he's an irrelevant option right now. But he did what he did. Matt McLain, in my opinion, was the linchpin of what made this team last year click and why they got consistent play out of him and why they were good. Let's face it, when Matt McLain came up, he was the guy, ever since he came up, they started playing better baseball. Yeah? And I mean, Ellie De La Cruz, without question, was a spark plug to the whole thing. So I'm not acting like he wasn't a part of the mix. But when Matt McLain then got injured, right, towards last season, we kind of fell off from that point forward. And I'm not suggesting that just for a single second, if you plug Matt McLain in this lineup every single day this year, that everything gets magically fixed. But I definitely think there's a domino effect. Yes, I do. I 100% believe that. All right, so when we come back, we are going to talk about maybe the Reds. Maybe not.
Maybe a little Joe Burrow, too.
Maybe a little Joe Burrow, because there might be some Joe Burrow news.
There is Joe Burrow news.
That and more. What about that a tease on 1410 Wing AM? All right, Casey. 15 minutes late. People are dying. They want to hear it. It's Monday, Casey. It's Monday.
It's
Are you
Monday.
ready? Are
I'm
you ready
ready.
for the Mondays?
I'm ready for the Mondays.
Yes, you are. Take it away, Casey.
The Reds report, future Bengals report, and all the rest of the Cincinnati local teams around here is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with the suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
Productivity.
Good job, guys. You all answered. Productivity. The path to innovation begins here. Visit Encore.tech. Pawnee Water. You know it. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. Uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use.
plus
The
A.
result is a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. You can visit Pawnee Water at
Limestone filtration.
PAHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water.
Smoothness.
And then I got our Monday sponsor, the Game Time app. Use code OTB to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. That's code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Game Time app. 2 simple clicks. Get to see exactly where you're sitting at, and you get your tickets right up to game time, as the app suggests.
Hey,
Download the Game Time app.
while we're off the radio, I have a genuine question. This is back to MLS for a single second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if there was like some Saudi funding, like LIV, or like where money's not an object, it doesn't matter at all? Is it just is the tradition so rich in Europe? I'm guessing that you can't possibly just make MLS the biggest soccer league in the world. Is it genuinely impossible?
I think it's impossible.
So you couldn't be like what LIV is doing and just start taking all the best players in the world and put them in America, and then it actually just turn into what they have in Europe.
But they're already in soccer. The Saudis are already in soccer.
Oh, okay. Breaking news.
They took Ronaldo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they have their own team then.
Well, they have they.
That's how I get. That is the coolest thing about Europe is that you can just have you. So me, Chatterbox could just get a group of soccer players together, right? And if I guess my this is a dumb question because I don't know the answer to it, or not a dumb question, but this is how green I am with soccer in Europe. Can we just become so good? Like if you gave us 10 years, right? It's like if you closed your eyes and you gave us all 10 years and all we ever did was play soccer. If we got good enough, can we grind up through the ranks possibly? Is that possible or no? Like you still have to have some kind of like backing to you.
I think that there's too much history and tradition within European soccer to break that.
No, no. My question changed. I'm sorry, Casey. I'm saying, like, does European soccer work from the ground up? Like, you don't have to be a part of, like, some league. You can just be a team, and then you just keep getting it's not relegation. What is it? Promotion?
Promotion.
If you just keep getting promotions, is that possible or not really?
Yeah, you can do that. You could do that, theoretically.
What an so that's like the true American way.
It is.
You can, if you're good enough, you can make it. There's no nepotism involved, of course, as we all know. Not in America.
None. Zero. I do like my favorite part about soccer is the relegation and promotion stuff. Yeah. I think that makes it a lot more competitive, a lot more fun.
I agree.
Makes your seasons matter. Don't tank.
Yeah, you're not allowed to tank.
How many more years does Messi have?
Oh, I don't think he's got very many left.
Gotcha. So he's definitely on his you come to the MLS, you're legitimately on the retirement tour.
Yeah.
And that's what Ronaldo went to Saudi.
Went to Saudi.
Yeah, he went in the Middle East.
So the Middle East folks, are they trying to actually field a competitive team to play in the Premier League, or are they just like trying to take guys to make it entertaining?
I think they want to be like the second best league, probably.
Wait, it's a league. Wait, they have a league.
Well, I don't know. I don't know much about whatever.
Right.
Whatever
let's
that.
bring on. I'm gonna
So
reach out to Laurel for off the radio segments of teach me about soccer.
When do they start grabbing our basketball players? Because that's the other national game.
Jolly says they have a league, by the way. Go ahead.
They have a league. Yeah, Saudis have a league. But like, what if they started, poaching the great basketball players in the NBA right now? They just like told Jokic, like, hey, Jokic, we'll give you 3 times as much money, and you can go see your horses back home whenever you want. Like,
Yeah, I think that they could. I think it would become like LIV though, because that was the question I had about the glory or the nostalgia of all of these teams. Is that you just like you've said before, right? Like I think that you're gonna always root for your team because it's just I don't
Correct.
know. So I don't think they'd be able to poach enough players from the NBA to where people would care.
And that's what, like when you asked about could you poach all the players from
So there's
from
your
Europe?
answer.
It's just no, they're gonna root for their teams.
Right.
They're gonna root for Barca.
Do you think? I guess, Mike. Do you think? And then we'll go back to the radio here in a second. Do you think that America would care more if there was like the legitimately the best players in the world here, or is it like not really? Because NHL, you could. I mean, the best players in the world are playing in the NHL.
We'd care more. Yeah. I don't think it's gonna.
We care.
I'll tell you what would really affect. Yeah, I think football, losing the best players in football would be a much bigger deal. Like, could you imagine Tyreek Hill, Josh Allen, and whoever else you want to name, all just decide to hike out?
America would be ready for the war.
They would be.
War.
They would be.
Our country would be like, hey.
Well, you take Josh Allen, Lamar, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I'll go to war.
I'll tell you right now, you take Joe Burrow off the Bengals to go play for a Saudi
Sundays.
team, and you'd have more people down at the recruitment office of the armed forces than you'd ever seen before. There'd be a line out the door of people.
Right.
They'd be ready to fight. Right. Like, all right, we're done with this. We're going to take him back. The only way that America knows how. Let's get the fighter jets out. Sorry. But that is kind of funny.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't think. I think the Saudis will come from the NBA at some point. They have the baseball league, by the way. A couple former Reds in that baseball league.
Joe Morgan and Chris Sabo? Like, Joe Morgan's the GM of one of the Saudi leagues.
Yeah.
Or not Joe Morgan, my bad. Barry Larkin.
Yeah,
I was thinking other Hall of Famer. He's, R.I.P. Sorry, Joe Morgan. Barry Larkin.
It's okay. I mean, he's there in spirit.
Right. Barry Larkin and Chris Sabo, I think, run one of the teams.
By the way, Chris Sabo, I bookmarked this somewhere, and this is where my brain lets me down. I got to be honest, and I don't mean to say this too rudely about Chris Sabo. Chris Sabo got up on the stage after they won the World Series. Now, these things are things that I've never seen in my life before.
Yeah.
So, but he got up on the stage and said some like inspiring words. It's the most ridiculous, unbelievably terrible motivational speech I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I'm gonna have to find out where I bookmarked it and send it to you. We'll make that the cherry on top today.
Please.
You thought that my motivational speech of coming into work the other day was bad?
Yeah.
Boy, you should see this one.
Nothing was worse than Dalton.
All right, we have some Joe Burrow news.
Colts
We're about to come back on the radio for. Is that what we're getting ready to do?
Yeah, we have some Joe Burrow news.
All right, let's do it. All right, welcome back into hour number 2. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Kenner and Kev next on ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. Miami Valley's home for the best sports talk in the Miami Valley region. And you know why they call it the Miami Valley, Elliot?
Why's that?
Because two rivers, they converge.
Really?
Yes.
How about that?
Yep. Just I don't know if you've ever heard that or not, but that's news to know.
Which rivers converge?
I think it's the Ohio River and the Miami River.
Oh.
And that's why they call it the Miami Valley River.
Really?
But when I say Ohio, I know it's not the Ohio River because the Ohio River is well below Dayton.
Yeah.
But it's the only other river that came to my mind really fast. So now
They're
I'm
both
at a loss
Miami
for
rivers,
words.
the Great Miami and the Little Miami.
There it is, Great Miami and Little Miami. That's
makes
sense.
Why. That makes a lot more sense.
Gotcha. Who knew? Who knew?
The
I thought
Ohio
it was the Ohio all along.
No, the Ohio runs through Hamilton.
That's right. Yeah, that's
the
it.
Hamilton River runs through Hamilton.
That's right.
And now people on the radio think we're absolutely idiots. We need to
Yeah,
stop
but
doing bits.
They thought that long before that.
You're right. Good news. All right, folks. We have. Is this breaking news or is this just okay news or where are we at on this Joe Burrow news? Please fill me in.
This is speculation.
This is speculation.
Oh, this isn't even factual information.
So Reed sent this in a group chat. This is per source John Frisella. John Frisella, he's an NFL insider, per his own Twitter bio. He's a published sports author, NFL draft analysis based out of New York. He says, breaking. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow's wrist will, quote, never be the same, per discussion with my Cincinnati source this morning. Quote, Joe's surgery in L.A. was not to fix his injury, but to make sure the bone grows correctly. Joe will always be at risk of injury because his bone has to grow back, and that could take 2 years. His playing will all be off of risk. End quote. So this guy says Joe Burrow basically he's going to be injury prone forever because this wrist will never be healed. Did that surgery for sure take place in L.A. though?
I don't know.
I don't
Funny
think
if it didn't.
I don't know if it did. I'll have to double check there.
So what are you suggesting? You're buying this? Buy or sell?
Buy or sell?
Buy or sell?
John
Do
Frisella's
you
report.
buy this guy's? Do you buy this guy's intellectual knowledge?
I do not, because I don't think it was the bone. I think Craig's right in the chat. I think it was the ligament. I think,
This is the one of the top comments underneath this tweet. He tore a ligament. He didn't break a bone. He didn't have surgery in L.A. His doctor said he is expected to make a full recovery without an issue.
yeah. So
Clicks business, baby. Clicks business.
that's
You know what?
NFL insider John Frisella out of New York reporting on the Bengals.
What injury
Nobody's going to be rooting harder for Joe Burrow to get a wrist injury than John
Right,
Frisella.
listen, he might.
Is that
He
his
might.
name?
Maybe this guy's right. What injury did Justin Herbert hurt last year? Here, sources tell me from L.A. that Justin Herbert will never be the same quarterback. His knee, arm, shoulder, whatever he hurt last year, whatever medical practices was just to help it. He might hurt it again. He'll never be the same. Quote that. Put that on Twitter. That's coming from your source, Reed Mouse, NFL insider, from Hamilton, Ohio.
How about that?
All right.
Mr. 13-0.
Mr. 13-0. People forget.
I think it was 13-1, maybe. Was that what it was? Or 13-0?
13-0. I have the bet slips, but I did on the show say the first game I said that the Browns would cover.
Gotcha.
That was the wrong one.
So you changed your mind after the fact.
Correct. Right before the game, I bet on the Texans.
Gotcha. You just let all your constituents.
It's because I
drowned
kept
it in
hearing how
sorrow.
great Joe Flacco was, and I was like, Joe Flacco ain't any good.
So spite bet. You want a spite bet?
I was more of a I guess sure. The
Yeah.
Browns aren't very good. Browns don't win playoff games.
Happens to
That
the
is
best
known.
of us. I've
That
done
is
it.
known.
I've done it many times.
That is known.
I've done it many times.
It is known.
All right. Well, listen.
Oh wait
We
a
have
minute.
more news.
Wait a minute. This is from he quote tweeted his own tweet.
Oh, okay.
Joe Burrow follow-ups. He put this was important. My post from this morning was directly quoted from my source, word for word. That was number one. Number two, secondary source background. Dr. Timothy Kremchek, renowned orthopedic surgeon, spoke to WLWT Cincinnati about how ligaments attach bones and that there are many bones in the wrist. 3, I mentioned articles from December stating the surgery was in Pennsylvania, but my personal source continued to say LA 4 different times. Number 4, my take, ? I believe the medical quotes. But on a personal level, I believe Burrow is a warrior, and I'll never count him out of anything. So this guy's just the biggest hack I've ever
He's
seen in my entire
backtracking
life.
now.
I mean, that's the biggest hack I have ever seen. Shout out to John Frisella. This guy's a loser. Respectfully, what an absolute clown. I mean, you have to be. That's the worst thing I've ever
Do
seen.
you ever think that there's a chance sometimes in life you put out a post and you don't think in a single second that it'll catch any kind of real, what we'll call mainstream, and then all of a sudden it starts picking up some momentum. You got a little bit of a wave, and then all of a sudden that wave turns into a just, I don't know. I don't want to say a tsunami, but let's just say, for instance, it turns into something you never thought it expected. I think that's what happened to this guy. He put something out, didn't think it was going to get that much play. He just wanted to kind of sound cool maybe to his some of his followers that he has. And then it kind of got mainstream. He's getting dragged, and then he was like, we're backtracking. That's what happened.
That appears to be what happened.
Well, what he doesn't know is that we are very defensive about Joe Burrow. So if you're going to come at Joe Burrow, you better have the facts. You better have the receipts to cement what you're saying out there, or the city will drag you, as I think most cities would for their starting quarterback. But maybe so here more than anywhere else.
Buy or sell? What cities would actually defend their quarterbacks for?
Well,
who's the Raiders quarterback again?
Aiden O'Connell.
AOC.
O'Connell.
And Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew. What do they think they're talking about in Vegas sports talk right now? We got a chance to listen to about 5 to 10 minutes of it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
boy, oh boy, it was bad.
It was
I mean,
horrible.
I was thinking to myself,
talking about
I
the
don't think
Stars
this
whooped
show.
up on the Golden Knights.
Listen,
That's
there's
what they're
plenty of
talking
people.
about.
In fact,
Wow.
I think just the other day, someone was complaining to us saying that this show's taken an incredible turn for the worse. And you know what? Sometimes it is. Sometimes you don't always hit home runs. We're still working, progressing, trying to find some folks. But having said that, I did listen to about 10 minutes of Vegas sports talk on the way to wherever that we were going. And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe we're not that bad. Because I know one thing. at least some semblance of entertainment from time to time.
Correct.
These guys were just talking into the weeds about just the most nonsensical things. You would have thought they were talking about Bubba Thompson for an hour.
I love going to random cities and listening to their sports talk show. Listen to whatever their sports talk is. I remember 3 years ago, I was driving to see my brother out in Kansas City, and I was listening to them. They were talking about this young shortstop prospect. You might have heard of him. His name Bobby Witt Jr. And they said
You got triggered by this.
I got very upset by this, and I might be wrong. In hindsight, I might be wrong. They said, at what bar does Bobby Witt have to clear to cement him as living up to expectations? And they said he's got to have a better career than Andrew McCutchen. And I said, that is ridiculous. Andrew McCutchen has had a phenomenal, not a Hall of Fame career, but in the tier below that. The tier below that, and that's what they're going to – he's got to have a Hall of Fame career to cement it. And you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. In hindsight, Bobby Witt looks pretty stinking good. I still hold that. I mean, he's not done anything. Andrew McCutchen looked pretty freaking good when he came up.
We have a shout out, Jolly. I'm gonna let you read that. I know for the folks on the radio, this guy, his name is Jolly. He's a big time contributor to the show. He sent you some money, Elliot.
So this is a $20 super chat from our good friend Jolly. This is Elliot's cut. He said to take Forever Young in the Derby, and it paid out with a show place. Thank you, E-Train. Thank you, Jolly, for listening. Great pick by you. I should have given out my other pick, Mystic Dam, which did happen to win the race. But listen, we'll take that as well. Shout out to me.
That's right.
Yeah, listen. I'm a horse sharp.
My favorite thing that Jolly does sometimes is I can tell that he's either got some downtime on Twitter. By Twitter, I mean X. Because what he does is he realizes that there's this semblance of a community out there of NASCAR fans that will complain about the Fox broadcast no matter what.
Yeah.
And listen, when you're in a space, you start to realize how hard things are, right? Before we got into broadcasting, I used to always think to myself, like, I just never even considered all the resources it would take to actually show a sports broadcast, right? So I was just very naive. I just turned it on. I expected it to work, and that's just the way it went. Whenever you get into any semblance of some profession, and it could be any vertical market in the world. You could oil rigging or something, right? I have no idea how hard oil rigging is, but my point is, if you get into oil rigging, you probably have a little bit of grace, or you show grace towards certain things. I've started to show a significant amount of grace towards broadcast because I know how hard it is. And when we went to that NASCAR race, the one main takeaway that I had when we were there was how ridiculous that broadcast is. Like, how many things that they have coming into that truck, how many sounds they have coming into that truck, how many different reasons. Like, it's just, I don't even know how you do it. It's like, I always say, it's like the life's work of probably 4 generations of people to even get to some semblance to where of where they're at now. And what he does on his downtime is he just goes and finds people, I guess, just ripping on Fox broadcasts, complaining about something. Yeah. And he just lets them have it. He's not a fan of it.
Listen, good for him. I thought the Fox broadcast was great, and I think Jolly's great.
That's right. He might be biased.
He let me on the track, so I'm gonna defend it. I'm gonna defend it 100%. Any other news? Do you want to do a cherry on top real quick?
I would love a cherry on top, and I really wanted to make my cherry on top the Chris Sabo thing. Yeah. And I have zero clue where I found this thing at. If you are in the chat right now, if you can find this Chris Sabo speech, if you want to call it that, in the 1990 World Championship when they beat the Oakland Athletics and they swept them 4-0, he referenced this and started talking about it. And he was trying to get the crowd all fired up. And when I tell you it was the world's worst motivational speech I've ever seen, I genuinely kind of think that it was. That was, of course, outside of maybe it wasn't Dabo, but I think it was Jameis Winston's W speech.
Yeah.
Besides that one, maybe the world's worst. If you can find that for me, I have zero clue where I bookmarked this thing.
But listen, my cherry top's not going to be as good as that, but it is something I saw from our good friend Reds Daily. My favorite part about certain baseball broadcasters is that sometimes they forget they're calling a baseball game and they just start rambling, acting like it's podcast time. There was a call this weekend in the minor leagues where the broadcaster for the Lookouts, and this is, by the way, presented by United Dairy Farmers, the best farmers in all of the world. So this is a minor league. This is a minor league broadcaster, and he just kept ranting about how he grew up with an iPhone and didn't know how to use a landline during the middle of the game. We won't play it all, but we'll play enough of it. Oh no,
That's a tough look.
brutal,
spinning.
absolutely
It's spinning.
brutal.
Yeah.
This is the result of, unfortunately, Spectrum. And
I don't think it is this time.
and that's
Can't
who
say
we'll
it's
blame.
Spectrum this time. In fact, it's not Spectrum. It's who was that? Was that X?
Yeah, it's
That was that.
It's X.
So
It's
that's
X.
your guy, Elon.
Oh, now we're gonna blame
In the
Elon. I
office
think
on the
there it
phones that
goes.
we grew up
Maybe it
on,
was just
because
the
my
producer.
first phone was an iPhone. First pitch to Vasquez is outside for ball one. Now, a lot of people in the office, they were in college using pay phones, which I've never used one of those. 1-0 pitch to Vasquez is popped out of play on the right side. The BlackBerry phone was big, I'm told. When I was in middle school, those phones with the sliding keyboards were the hot thing to have if you didn't have an iPhone. The 1-1 to Vasquez. Swing and a miss. But they were all giving me a hard time in the office because I was having a difficult time setting up my voicemail because I had to go through all these keys and buttons to do it rather than, just being able to click a touchscreen. 1-2 pitch. Low and outside. I had to set up a pin.
This guy's an elegant
to create
storyteller.
I don't know.
A voice message after selecting like 4 different options to get to the spot where I could do it. 2-2 pitch.
He's keeping
That's
up with the
outside.
game.
It's full count on Vasquez.
I mean, I haven't heard someone tell a story like this
But I
since
grew
then.
up on the iPhone. I grew up on touch screens.
Look at that camera shot.
First
That's a good
came out,
view.
I think, the iPhone when I was in
Look
4th
at the kids
grade.
playing in the
Payoff
back.
pitch. Checked up. Vasquez gets a called strike 3 anyway at the bottom of the zone. But who knows what the next big phone will be. First pitch to Genovis. He will
I've heard enough
take
of this
outside
guy.
for ball one.
I've heard enough of this
Listen,
guy.
hey,
He was doing an okay job.
listen.
That, by the way, that
This-
goes on for 2.5 more minutes about how
Listen.
the iPhones in the world of the phone has changed.
That guy is going solo for 100+ games a year. You got to fill it up a little bit. Come on. I mean, if Elliot, I would like you because you're dogging this guy a little bit.
This is a full circle moment of the show where Reed is actually going to defend something because he's been in those shoes before.
Correct. You call 120 minor league baseball games for an audience of 50 people and an attendance of 250, and you tell me what you talk about for 120 games.
Yeah. I'll probably try to stick to baseball, but to each their own. For the final minute of the show, Trace, what do you got?
Well, I was able to find this clip. This is the legendary.
Oh, this is great. This would be a great way to
This
end
is
it.
the legendary Chris Sabo in his speech after the 1990 World Series. Joe Nuxall introducing him, by the way.
What's it say?
I'd like to thank everybody because you guys are pretty good. And I'd just like to say that no one gave us a chance. We kicked their ass in 4 straight, and that's all I got to say. And all I think, we kept our mouths shut. We just went out there and proved it on the field. They can talk all they want, but they're gonna sit home all winter, and they know they don't got nothing because we got the ring, and we got the money, and we got everything. Thank you.
Wow, if that doesn't get you fired up, I'll tell you
They got the
what,
ring, they got the money, and they got everything.
No, we got the rings, we got the money, and we got everything. That's what he said. I mean, that was tough. Maybe there was some alcohol involved there. Who knows what it was?
You
But,
think there was some on that one in
my,
that celebration?
My guess is
Yeah.
that there was. So sometimes you got to give a little bit of leeway on those types of things, but not the world's best clip. Not the world's best clip. All right. Case Elliot's giving me the signal, which means Kenner and Kev.
That's right.
Kenner and Kev's next.
I believe so. No
They
Reds
are?
game. No Reds game.
No Reds game. That means
Mercifully for all of us, the Reds will not be
thank you.
playing tonight.
All right, Kenner and Kev, they are next on 1410 Wing AM. Don't go anywhere. Have a good day, everybody. All right. Back on YouTube. All right, folks. This week we have Golf Friday. We're going to try to do golf for the first time. And when I tell you I don't know what at all ultimately will entail for us and what that will look like, we have no idea. But before we go, how many more days how many days are you in here? You're here till Thursday?
I will not be here Thursday. I'll be here Monday, Tuesday,
You're
Wednesday.
here Wednesday.
We don't have a show Thursday either, though.
We don't have a show Thursday, so you're here for the rest of the theoretical week. Friday we will be live. We will be live from
the Nook.
Clover Nook. Two things I want to say really fast. One is I want you to tell, if you want to, you can tell everybody where you're going and if you're excited about that. And then two would be I was naive. Sometimes not say sometimes, but there are times in life where I'm just unbelievably naive. And when I tell you, I didn't know what I expected at Clover Nook, but the difference between what I expected at Clover Nook Country Club and what I actually got was so wildly far apart. I know you said that all country clubs are nice.
Everyone that I've been to.
I
is
mean,
very nice.
I can't believe how nice it is. Now, to be fair, it's not. It's not in what many people would consider like a country club area. Which
from the northern part of Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like that's a good or bad thing. I'm just saying that probably that was some of the expectations going into it. It wasn't like this. It's in Kenwood, this, that, and the other. But
I've been to 4 country clubs off the top of my head. 4 Bridges, fantastic. Heritage, fantastic. I was just at Coldstream down on the east side yesterday. Beautiful, beautiful. And then Shawnee Country Club up in Lima, Ohio, which is very, very nice. I mean they're all taken. I mean people are paying thousands of dollars to be a member at that said place, so they've got to keep it nice.
Does make
you
sense.
Lose memberships.
It does make sense. But that Clover Nook, we will be there Friday to be very clear, and you will not be there. You will go.
I'll be going to Denver for my birthday. My birthday's this Thursday.
You guys driving?
No, we're flying.
You should give it a shot.
Give
it's
it a
fun.
shot.
Flying in, we're going to go to a concert in Red Rocks. We're going to go to Coors Field on Friday to watch the touted Rockies. They never lose at home.
Yeah.
They're undefeated at home
That's
in
true.
their entire history.
They're tough there. You should make a bet on them.
But I'm very, very, very excited. The one thing people don't get that play normal, like public courses, then they go to a country club. And I've only had the pleasure of playing at a country club like 3 to 4 times. The greens are just so much harder. You legitimately lose, I would say, an average of six strokes playing just from the greens because they're multi-tiered, they're twice as large. Like you're having, it's crazy how much harder the greens are at country clubs as opposed to just your normal public course. That's the biggest thing that I think people don't realize when they go to play at country club. But yeah, I'm really excited about Red Rocks too.
So you're going to Red Rocks? You're going to Coors?
Back Saturday morning.
How many more days? You're coming back Saturday morning?
Yep, I'll be back. I'm only staying there 2 days.
Damn. So no Rocky Mountains.
Red Rocks. It's in the mountains.
Rocky Mountain High, Colorado.
It's all right. We'll do.
John Denver.
In all seriousness.
John Denver.
In all seriousness.
He died.
I genuinely, as much as I hated driving on the way back, right? There was something that was legitimately awesome about just driving through the West, and I mean that sincerely. Like some people might think that's a bit. I probably will do that again in the near future. Do I want to drive? Have you ever looked back? Not to brag on ourselves a little bit, but have you ever looked back, Elliot, and realized what we accomplished on the way back home?
I don't know if I've done that yet. I think there will be a time where I do that. But I like the 4-hour method. Well,
I mean, have you ever thought about like out loud like what we did? Because the other day it just happened yesterday. I was like, all right, we started at 4:30 in the morning, on what was that, Saturday?
Yeah.
And we just didn't stop. We got back here at what time? 9:30, 10 o'clock
10 a.m.
on Sunday morning.
Yeah,
I don't know how that's humanly possible sometimes.
That's unheard of.
But anyway,
that's unheard of.
I have some semblance of cool news. So tomorrow, since I've gotten some Big J journalism things that have happened for me there's a semblance chance tomorrow that I get to go to Muirfield and rub some elbows. Just FYI.
Really?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
There's also rumors. Now, I'm not getting overly excited about this because I think there's rain in the forecast.
Yeah.
There's also rumors that I might get to play.
Really?
Yes.
So who got you in here? Are you gonna name drop?
1410 Wing AM. Of
Really?
All things. Yes.
Ooh.
Can you believe that?
That's pretty cool.
So that's the crazy thing of the era that we're living in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that I genuinely like.
How far of a drive?
I'm
is
not
it
trying
from
to
here?
kill legacy media, but it's just like, hey guys, like there are some people that are on the internet that you could utilize these privileges for.
Yeah.
And it would exponentially grow your audience
Oh,
or reach. But hey, taking advantage of it. So yeah.
How far of a drive is it?
Probably like an hour and a half, right? Maybe
Makes
almost
sense.
2 hours.
That makes sense.
I don't know if that's going to happen though, because one, I think there's rain in the forecast. My guess is the crazy thing is that tournament's not until Memorial Day. I don't really understand the logic, but
Not a lot of rain in the forecast, though. I don't think.
yeah, I hope not. But you're right. The one thing the biggest takeaway that I have at Clovernook, speaking of which, and maybe this is why it'll all tie itself back into to our audience, is that I am going to meet with Clovernook to see if we can't make that work, the golf tournament work for us there. They said that they can't do it. They don't allow any outside member groups in on the weekends until the off season. You want to take a guess on when the off season starts?
My guess is the off season starts October.
October 1, October 15, October 30th.
October 30th. I'd say
All right,
I'd say it
October
starts in
30th.
November actually.
All right. Elliot?
October.
Same question. First, 15th, or 30th? That's a big deal.
Oh, 20th, 30th, 30th.
You're going to go 30th?
Yeah.
So you're basically both saying November 1st, right? That's what
Yep.
What's the latest that you could do a tournament?
In
In
December, early December.
Wow, I would say a tournament and bank on.
Yeah, you got to have some decent weather, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say October. Like I wouldn't even trust it in November.
I think early December. Well, the first week of December is usually fine.
You're crazy.
That's you can't have a.
You are
golf
crazy,
tournament?
bro.
Sure you can.
Sometimes your brain
Sure you can.
is the most beautiful thing that exists.
Sure you can. You can play golf tournament in December. I've played golf.
Make
in
it a
the
chapel
first,
question
or
really
the first
fast.
week of December.
I mean, I don't know how many people care, but I would put when's the latest you could run a golf tournament? October 15th. Let's do October 1, October 15th, November 1, November. Actually, we need to do it later. What's the first one? October 15th.
Yeah.
So October 15th, November 1, November 15th, December 1.
Temperatures December
only do
1 this
4.
past year.
I know. So it's
We're 46
October 15th,
degrees.
Yep.
November 1st,
I love it.
then
October 15th, November 15th, December 15th.
gotcha.
Let's
2
do
years
that.
ago, temperatures were
We'll make it
28
something
degrees
like
on December 1.
3 years ago.
But that's not this year, baby. That's what he's going to do.
3 years ago.
3 years ago, 40 degrees.
4 years ago.
Like, what do you think the temperature is? Like, who
4
wants
years
to
You
play
can always
golf?
tell when Casey's obviously doing like a chat poll question of the day or
December 1,
something else that's
2020,
important because the
30
camera will be
degrees.
inevitably on somebody.
If we go
And
back
that's
far
just-
enough, I'll be right.
That's good news for Casey.
December
by the way.
1,
That's me
2019.
bragging on him.
Ooh, you got a 50 burger.
Let's go.
50
Come on.
burger in 2019.
50 degrees. I love 50 degrees. You know what I don't like? 85 degrees.
Yeah,
I don't like 85 degrees, so I'd rather have it be 50 degrees.
fair.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
Answer, by the way. Answer.
When they're off season,
Yep.
when is it?
October 1.
Oh, really?
Nobody was more fired up than me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's great.
That's good.
We could 100% work with
You
that.
bet.
I think we're the goal is to see if we
normally
can't make the
pretty dry in October?
first Saturday weekend, and in October.
There's a country club around here that Camargo, which is incredibly exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
They don't let anybody play on their course. I think every Thursday, like it's completely off limits.
Really, just to make sure it's in good
Correct.
shape for the weekend.
Things.
Fair enough.
And
Yeah.
I think the people that take care of the course go out and play. Like and they walk. They walk their 9, and
right.
I think that's cool.
I was thinking like golf. What a crazy game. I don't know. What a wild game. I was thinking this weekend about how people complain and say that it's obviously like it was a waste of land.
Who says that?
There's people that do, but there's also arguments to be had about other things.
When you go in, when you fly over a big city like Chicago or New York, it does seem like there's better use for that space, like in a congested area, like here in Ohio, where there are big cities, but like, you know, there's also a lot of lands. Yeah, what's it matter? But like when you go to like Chicago and you just see this big 18-hole golf course right in the middle of it, you're like, there's probably a better use for that space than that. So I agree and disagree with those people.
60% almost says October 15th is the latest. So, hey, we'll be inside of that. But we'll
Elliot said 12-1. He said December 1.
Yeah, it's crazy talk. You can't take
play
anything
golf.
like that serious. It's the
golf.
most ridiculous thing that's ever been made.
I'm going to play golf on December 1st this year. I'm going to.
Well, you can play it, but you just can't plan the idea that you're going to run a tournament on December 1.
Sure you can. Only the best.
Speaking of which, what's a fair sizable amount that's going to actually like penetrate this city for a grand prize, like the actual first place winner gets? How much do you think you'd have to have before it actually is like, oh wow, like
25.
25 seems like a good number.
You get 25K. People come a running.
Speaking of which, we talked last week about how me, Elliot, you, and Sean should get into the Hamilton City golf tournament.
Yeah, you put that on the calendar. What's that about?
We're gonna play.
Oh, we are?
Yeah, we're gonna play in it.
Okay.
And I brought the idea up to my dad, who runs the 2 golf courses here in town.
Yeah.
He has banned me from playing in it. He said I will not. He's like, no.
He thinks you would ruin it.
He thinks I will embarrass the family.
Oh no!
Oh no!
It's good news because I also can't go that day due to a golf outing. So it's
he literally told me, he said, Reed, I'm not letting you play in it. I was like, what? He's like, Matt can play. My brother-in-law Connor can play. Reed, you can't play. Can't embarrass the name.
This sounds like an origin story of like a great Disney movie.
So I'm gonna go with a pseudonym.
I think we could get this story on Disney Plus if we could find a way to get you to win the city championship.
Well, I can't win. Let's.
I'm saying that's how every good story starts.
Bee
Somebody
flight.
tells them that they can't do it, and then you just work religiously behind the, in the dark hours of the night. Nobody knows that you're working hard, and then you show up to that city tournament and you just win by 5 strokes.
If I snap
it
from Kyle Hodges and
That's right.
TJ Wilson and everybody else, Matt Mouse.
That's right.
That'll be fantastic.
Nobody would be more upset of you winning the city championship than Matt Mouse.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine?
It'd be great. It'd be great.
That would actually be your there's Reed's real motivation. So everybody would think it was because his dad told him that he couldn't do it. It would actually be because he's just think that his brain power works off of spite and fun and having being a troll. But yeah, you being able to tell your brother that you beat him in the city championship would be something.
Listen, I love Matthew to death. I was at his daughter's baptism yesterday. It was a beautiful, beautiful party and a beautiful, beautiful day. Mm-hmm. My brother tells us all the time, he's like, I'm going to win it someday. And it's been a few times he showed up with a lead going into day 2, and that lead is gone by hole 3. Gone by 3.
Mental game. He needs it. All right, we will be back. I will be gone tomorrow. That leaves you with these guys in the room. They will hold the fort down. And then, of course, as always, as a reminder, later this week, we will not be in here because we're going to have all of our equipment gone. It's going to be gone till Friday, of course. So basically Thursday we won't be here. Thursday, getting ready for the race.
Getting ready.
As Tom would say, we're going to get ready to get ready. All right. Will you enjoy the rest of your day? Box lunch? No?
We got to have our meeting afterwards.
Okay, so that's right. Box lunch maybe later today.
Correct. Stay tuned. If we don't have it today, we'll definitely have it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. All right. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for watching this show. This has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Take care, everybody.